All summer in a day.
All summer in a day. What else?
Finish all the programs.
Huh?
Poems are finished.
Only the greatest Olympic prize and all summer in a day is left.
Okay. This is now, give me a pen, please. This is now 10th ICSE Varshina. 10th ICSE Varshina. Okay. 9 gold medals is done, no? All on a summer day I'm doing today. Today I'll do that. Today I'll do that. Okay? And today is 16. Okay. What about Merchant of Venice?
Merchant of Venice, we have finished Act 3.
Act 3. Completed. To do 4 and 5, no?
Yes.
All right. So today I all on a summer day. That will take me 2 hours. Okay, then long stories. Okay, good. Capitals is complete. The Patriot
Patriot is also done by this.
done by the teacher completed now. Patriot. 9 gold medals. All on a summer day. Merchant of Venice and Merchant of Venice. Act 4 and Act 5.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll do all on a summer day. Now, what is the story about all on a summer day? Have you all done this lesson? All on a summer day? This my greatest Olympic prize also you have finished?
No, it's not.
Huh?
We didn't finish.
You have to do that also, no? Isn't it? Okay. That is to be done. My greatest Olympic prize. Okay. And all in a summer day. Yeah. Fine. Now, all in a summer day means what now? Actually, these children, this is a story. Is actually the people are living on Venus. They're living on Venus. Now, what is Venus? The planet. And there on Venus, the sun comes once in 7 years. Once in 7 years. And this little girl, whom they're talking about, is a girl come from the earth. A girl has come from earth. Her parents are scientists and they have got a project in Venus. So they take this girl to Venus and they admit this girl in the school in Venus where all other children are there. Now those children have not seen the sun for 7 years. And if at all it comes for a very short time and goes away. Yeah. Very nice, 2 of you roaming in the garden. Huh? Yes? Roaming in the garden, you, Mr. Hero. Sign. This is the number of children in the class. English class is only so many. Who's she? He. Why is he not coming? Which school? You are not in non-point. Oh, we'll have to ask it. Come, sign fast. Both of them you sign. Both the you are not signed also, no? You have signed. You have signed also. Just sign the paper. You got a textbook, no? Hero last time he came without a book. Sorry. He signed also. Both you signed. You fine. How you signed alone?
I did.
You came and you
He just
came.
gave me. I did.
Acha. Okay, keep it there. Anyway, okay. So let me come back to what I'm trying to tell you. This is a story about the planet Venus. And in Venus or on Venus, the sun comes once in 7 years. And if at all it comes for a very, very short time. Very short time. Now, this particular girl, Margot, whom they call it Margot, she's a girl coming from Earth. Now, on Earth, we see the sun every day. Yes or no? So, and her parents are scientists. They have got a project to be completed on Venus. So, they take her to Venus. And there, the little girl is admitted in the school in Venus. And the best part of it is she's behaving differently. She's a girl who has come from Earth. She has seen the sun. For her, sun is something absolutely natural, normal. She sees it. And she is coming from Connecticut. She's an American. So her way of behavior, the way she has been brought up, the way she talks, the way she walks is completely different from the children who are on Venus. Children in Venus are very, 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 very primitive. They're very primitive. They don't know their behavior. They've not seen the sun. For them, seeing the sun is a novelty and they long to see the sun. Okay? Mainly, they are living in the darkness. I wouldn't say dark ages, in the darkness. Their mentality is also dark and their surroundings is also dark. And their behavior is absolutely abominable. Absolutely bad behavior because they feel that Margot is showing off. And they take their revenge on that little girl. For no reason at all. Reason being that she's come from Earth and she has seen the sun and her way of talking and her way of walking and the way she handles situations, the way she talks to them is completely different from them. They resent her and they do everything in their power to make her life miserable because they're jealous of her. Finally, towards the end, they then realize that what they did was wrong. They did something to her, which we will come to know in the lesson. They locked her up. They locked her up in a particular room and they left her there in the dark room. So they are trying to make her experience darkness that they have experienced. She has not experienced darkness. Why? Because she's come from Earth. Okay? If you are fortunate enough, you are fortunate to live on Earth. Okay? And you'll be more fortunate, they say, if you live abroad beyond your own country. Is that clear? So this is the situation. All the way, they tell you how these little children from young, they develop this negative attitude towards their own colleagues from young. But later on, they realized that what they did was not right. So they had human characteristics. They were humane to understand, to realize that they should not have done what they did to her. Again, you're biting your fingers. Keep your fingers off your mouth. Ready? Ready? Now, soon, meaning they are all getting ready to see the sun. Do the scientists really know? Will it happen today? Will it? All of them are waiting anxiously for the rising of the sun. And they say, will it going to happen today? Because sometimes the prediction may not be right, as it happens in India. Tomorrow is going to be a cyclone. Fine. The schools are closed, this is closed, that is closed. And there's no cyclone at all. No cyclone at all. In fact, there's bright sunshine. So is it really going to happen today? So it's not. They wonder whether the forecast is right or wrong. Ready? Now, soon. Do the scientists really know what will happen today? Will it really happen today? What is going to happen today? The sun is going to come up after 7 years. So they don't want to miss that opportunity. Look, see for yourself. The children pressed to each other like so many roses, so many weeds, intermixed, peering out for a look at the hidden sun. They were all cramped up together. Intermixed means they were coming from various countries. They have been there. Some of them have been born in Venus, on Venus. So they are not of the same nationality. It rained, oh my God, it's supposed to be sunny. The sun is supposed to come. But what happened? It rained. How disappointing. It has been raining for 7 years. Can you believe this, children? When the rain is falling, even for the entire morning, what is your attitude? Dull. You tend to get into depression. You feel bored. You feel miserable. And if the sun comes up, automatically you brighten. These people have been facing rain for 7 years. So you can imagine how damp their thinking is, how damp their personality is, how very, very morose and sad they are going to be. Thousands upon thousands of days compounded and filled from one end to the other with rain, with a drum and gush of water, meaning heavy rain. So it is a noise of the sound of the rain, with the sweet crystal fall of showers and the concussion of storms. Concussion means hitting, one storm colliding, okay? Colliding with each other, storms so heavy that they were tidal waves came over the islands. Tidal waves are huge waves accompanied with pressure. 1,000 forests had been crushed under the rain and grown up 1,000 times to be crushed again. Foliage and greenery was growing very fast because there was plenty of water. But the worst part of it was also getting destroyed. It was also getting destroyed. Why? Because they were growing without water. So those plants will not be green. And if they grow, they are growing very long, sickly looking stems. Have you seen that the color of a stem? For example, I don't know many of. For example, if you take a money plant, you know this money plant, and you put it into a bottle and you keep it in your bathroom, it will grow. It will grow. And you forget to take it out and keep it in the sun for some time. After a couple of days, you will find this growing very long, sickly stem, pale, because it has got no sun and it's very weak. It's got no sun. The same thing here. So they were thousands are crushed under the rain and grown up 1,000 of times to be crushed again. So forceful was the water. And this was the way life was forever on the planet Venus. And this was the schoolroom of the children, of the rocket men and women. Who's rocket men and women? These are parents who are scientists. They're all gone to Venus to prepare a rocket. Okay, rocket men and women who came to a reigning world to set up civilization and live out their lives. So they had come from all over to Venus and they were living on Venus for so many years because they were doing their own experimentation. Okay, now it's stopping, it's stopping. Yes, yes. What is stopping? Rain. Yes, yes. Margot stood apart from them. She stood away from them, from these children who could ever remember a time when there wasn't rain and rain and rain. She stood away from these children who could not remember a single day when it never stopped raining. For them, it was continuously raining and raining and raining. And for her, she's come from the earth. For her, she has seen the sun. She has not seen rain continue. So she was very apart. Physically and mentally, she was apart from them. Physically and mentally, she was apart from them. Okay? Now, they were all 9 years old. And if they had been a day 7 years ago, when the sun came out for 1 hour and showed its face to the stunned world, they could not recall. Why they could not recall? Because 2 years old. They were 2 years old. Now they're 9. Now they are 9. So they can't remember for 1 hour the sun came. What is the sun? They don't know. Okay, and it went away. The sun disappeared. Sometimes at night she heard them stir. Stir means move in remembrance. And she knew they were dreaming and remembering gold or a yellow crayon or a large coin large enough to buy the world with it. So she was at night, she could see them shifting in their sleep. Why? Because they were remembering the sun that they saw for just 1 hour, and they were dreaming of a gold or perhaps of a yellow crayon. Now they draw the sun, no? Yellow crayon or a large coin enough to buy the whole world. She knew they thought they remembered a warmness, like the blushing in the face and the body, and in the arms and legs and trembling hands. So she said she was dreaming that they are dreaming of having seen the sun once in 7 years. But then they always awoke to the tapping drum, the endless shaking down of clear bead necklaces upon the roof. What is she describing? But they always awoke to the tapping drum. What is this tapping drum? What is this tapping drum? The drumming sound of the rain falling. They woke up to that, to the endless shaking down of clear bead necklaces. Really, they were necklaces? No, they were just raindrops, clear bead necklaces upon the roof, and the walk, and in the gardens, and in the forest, and in their dreams were gone. These days were washed away. After some time, they stopped dreaming. All day yesterday, they had read in class about the sun, about how like a lemon it was, and how hot it was. And they had written small stories or essays or poems about it. I think the sun is a flower that blooms just for 1 hour. That is the impression that they had of the rising sun. That was Margot's poem, read in a quiet voice in the still classroom while the rain was still falling outside. Oh, you didn't write that, protested one of the boys. Oh, can't be that you are a 9-year-old girl and you wrote that. Okay, can't be, not possible. See, the boys, typical boys irritating a girl. I did, said Margot. I did. William, said the teacher. But that was yesterday. Now the rain was slackening. Slackening means becoming less and less. Why was the rain becoming less and less? Because the sun was expected to come up. And the children were crushed in the great thick windows. They were all rushing towards the windows to see the sun. Okay, they were all crammed up, putting their faces on the window pane. Where's teacher? She'll be back. She better be hurried, or else we'll miss it. Miss what? The sun. Meaning they will go out of that room only if the teacher takes them out. They will not go out of the room without the assistant of the teacher. So where is she? They turned on themselves like a feverish wheel, all tumbling spokes. They turned on themselves, they all turned around and they were all among themselves, okay? Talking about themselves like a feverish wheel moving round and round. They were entertaining themselves in the classroom. Margot stood alone. She was very frail girl, frail means delicate girl, and looked as if she had been lost in the rain for years. And the rain had washed out the blue from her eyes, and the red from her mouth, and the yellow from her hair. She was an old photograph. Dusted from an album, whitened away, and if she spoke at all, her voice would be a ghost. What was happening to Margot? Her earthly features were all disappearing. She was becoming pale. No sun. There was no sun. So even if you are in the sun, it's in the next classroom or outside? From the ground, from the roadside? So when you are in the sun, you have a very rich tone of your skin. That is why the foreigners, they will work from Monday to Friday. Friday afternoon, they're packing up and they're driving to the seaside to get a sun tan. They don't get the sun. We are so fortunate that we can walk out and we get the sun. We get the sun in our house. We don't have to go to the seaside to get tan. But they don't get the sun. So they go out and they get the sun tan and it looks very, very healthy for them. But Margot did not get the sun for such a long time because she had shifted to Venus for a long time. So her face was faded, her blue eyes were looking faded, her hair was looking faded. She did not have that brightness that she had when she was from the earth. Now she looked like a ghost. Now she stood separate, staring at the rain and the loud, wet world beyond the huge glass. What are you looking at? Said William. Margot said nothing. Speak when you're spoken to. Now this boy appears to be a bully. He's a bully. He's attacking her and interfering with her unnecessarily. You speak when you're spoken to. He gave her a shout. Shout means push. He gave her a shout. But she did not move. Rather, she let herself be moved only by him and nothing else. So she did not move, but she allowed him to push her. They edged away from her. All of them moved away from her. They would not look at her. She felt them go away. And this was because she would play no games with them in the echoing tunnels of the underground city. So they were in a city under the ground, tunnels, and she would not go and play with them in the darkness. If they tagged her and ran, she stood blinking after them and did not follow. Tagged her means what? Tagged her. Sometimes you tap her, tap the person, or pull her hair and run away, or even put a tag on her. Sometimes they put a tail sticking on the back, or sometimes they put a sticker, hit me. You know, it happens in school also. So somebody give me one hit and run away. Why are you just hit me on my back? So they were all the time irritating her. They tagged her. They put small little pieces on paper, or they irritated her. They must have pinched her. They must have given her a tap on her back. They tagged her and ran. She stood blinking after them and did not follow. Blinking means perhaps tears were in her eyes. Blinking, perhaps tears were in her eyes. When the class sang songs about happiness and life and games, her lips barely moved. She could not get associated with these type of people. So she just kept her mouth shut. Only when they sang about the sun and the summer did her lips move as she watched the drenched windows. And then, of course, the biggest crime of all was that she had come here only 5 years ago from Earth. That means how old is she now? 5 years ago she had come. So perhaps, we don't know how old is she, but 9. Most of them are 9. So she came on Earth, came to Venus when she was 4 years old. 4 years old, correct or not? All right. From the Earth. And she remembered the sun and the way the sun was and the sky was when she was 4 in Ohio. So she remembered the sun when she was 4 years old in Ohio, in the States. And they had been on Venus all their lives. Who? The other children. And they had been only 2 years old when last the sun came out, and had long since forgotten the color and the heat of it and the way it really was. But Margot remembered, because for her, she was 4 years old, so she realized, she was aware of her surroundings. It's like a penny, she said, once eyes were closed. No, it's not, the children cried. It's like a fire, she said, in the stove. You're lying, you don't remember, cried the children. But she remembered, and she stood quietly apart from all of them and watched the patterning windows. What does it mean, patterning windows? Patterning windows means what? The raindrops are falling and making a pattern on the window pane. That's what patterning windows. Just write it down. Huh? And then sometimes when there is, pay attention. Sometimes when there is a fog on the window, you make some designs now with your finger. That's what patterning. Okay? You are making pattern. And once a month ago, she had refused to shower in the school shower rooms, had clutched her hands to her ears and over her head, screaming, the water mustn't touch her head. So after that, dimly, she sensed it. She was different and that they knew her difference and kept away. She did not want to get her hair wet. Okay? She was a person who liked the dry weather. And these people wanted they were used to the wet weather. So if they have a bath, they didn't bother whether their head was wet or whatever. She did not want. She must have been using a shower cap. That's the way they do it. Okay? So she didn't want her hair to get wet, but these children are used to the rain, so they couldn't be bothered. They couldn't be bothered. Anything will do for them. She sensed it and she was different, and they knew her difference and they kept away. They felt that she was a snob. They felt that she was snobbish. There was talk that her father and mother were taking her back to Earth next year. It seemed vital to her, vital means important to her that they do so, though it would mean the loss of thousands of dollars to her family. They had come to Venus for a project, so they will get out of money. Whenever you change from one place, from your country to another country, you're deputed by the government, you get lots of money. So they had come actually to make money. But then when this girl was unhappy, perhaps the parents decided, let us go back to Ohio, let us go back to the Earth, and we will lose a lot of money. Okay. But they were not prepared to see their daughter so sad. And so the children hated her for all these reasons. Why? Because she was getting a chance to get out of Venus and go back to Earth, while these people's parents did not want to leave Venus. It meant the loss there. And so the children hated her for all these reasons of big and little consequence. Reasons, big reasons, small reasons, for any reason they were hating her. They hated her pale snow face, her waiting silence, her thinness, and her possible future. They hated her pale snow face. Her face was very white because there was no sun, which was not being tanned. Her waiting silence, she was a girl of few words. Sometimes when you are angry, you just lash out. You have to react. Basically, we always tell you, don't react, act. But we react. We give left, right, and center. But those people abroad, if you notice something, when they're angry, they just keep quiet. They calm down. But they will not let you go. After some time, they'll hit back. At that moment, it becomes too much of too many. And it becomes a disgraceful situation. But they know how to maintain. They do exactly what you do, but they do it with dignity. Don't be under the impression, oh, they are white people and they have got class and they have got dignity. They are human beings. Whatever you do, they do it. Even worse, but they do it in style. They do it in style. Whatever you want to cheat, you also cheat. They will also do it in style, but they will also cheat. You think there are no thieves, there are no cheats abroad? There are, but they do it in style. And they are overlooked because of the white skin. We feel white skinned people are very dignified. No, they are basically human beings. Whatever they do, you do, but you have no class. In India, we don't have any class. But they do it in style. So they'll add dignity to their misbehavior. Is it clear? But it is misbehavior. Bottom line is, it is misbehavior. One done in a crude manner, one done in a sophisticated manner. Is this clear? All right. Get away. And they hated her pale snow face. They hated her waiting silence. She was silent. She did not hit back. She did not refute and fight with them or quarrel with them. They did not like her thinness and they did not like her possible future. What possible future? She's going to Earth. That's her future. Get away. The boy gave her another push. What are you waiting for? Then for the first time she turned and she looked at him. And what she was waiting for was in her eyes. What she was waiting for was in her eyes. Well, don't wait around here, cried the boy savagely. We won't see anything. Her lips moved. Nothing, he cried. It was all a joke, wasn't it? He turned to the other children. Nothing happening today, is it? In other words, he's trying to tell her, what the hell are you standing here? You're waiting for the sun? It's only a joke. It's only a joke. The sun is not going to come out. In other words, he wanted her to lose the sight of seeing the sun after 5 years. For her, it will be after 5 years. For her, it will be after 5 years. So he said, what are you waiting for? For the sun? No sun. Don't be foolish. There's nothing going to happen today. He was just telling her a lie. Nothing happening today. They all blinked at him. And then understanding, laughed and shook their head. They all blinked, they were all wondering what this fellow was talking about. And suddenly they realized that he was playing the fool, that he was telling her a lie. He was trying to misguide Margot, take her out from there, and that place that was there, they would occupy, and they would get a better chance to see the sun. Nothing, nothing. Oh, but Margot whispered, her eyes helpless. But this is the day the science predict. They say they know the sun. The scientists said, yes, we know the movement of the sun. The sun will come today. So she is very, very, very strongly believing what the scientists say because her parents are scientists. Okay? Now, all her jokes at the boy and seized her roughly, caught her very roughly. There, hey, everyone, let's put her in a closet before the teacher comes. Let's catch hold of her and lock her up in a cupboard. Before the teacher comes, let's put her there. No, said Margot, calling back. They surged upon her, they all went and fell upon her. They caught her up and bore her, protesting. They carried her and she was protesting and she was pleading and then she was crying back into the tunnel, a room, a closet where they slammed and locked the door. They stood looking at the door and saw it tremble from her beating and throwing herself against it. So now she was struggling to get out. She was banging the door. She was hitting her body against that door. They heard her muffled cries. She gave up. So now she went to her feelings by crying. Then smiling, they turned and went out and back down the tunnel just as the teacher arrived. And back down the tunnel means they turned their back to the tunnel and they ran out. They were coming out. Actually, their backs were towards the tunnel. Yes or no? Ready, children? She glanced at her watch. Yes, said everyone. Are we all here? Yes. See the light. Yes, we're all here. The rain slapped still more. They crowded to the huge door. The rain stopped. It was as if in the midst of a film concerning an avalanche, a tornado, a hurricane, a volcanic eruption, something had first gone wrong with the sound apparatus, thus muffling and finally cutting off all noise, all of the blasts and repercussions and thunders, and then second ripped the film from the projector and inserted in its place a beautiful tropical slide which did not move or tremor. So what he's saying is, from in the midst of the rain, the thunder, the lightning, the avalanche means the heavy flow of the snow. It was also snowing because it's a cold place. Okay, suddenly it stopped. Suddenly that film scene stopped because the sun has come. A beautiful tropical sun has come up. The world ground to a standstill. The silence was so immense and unbelievable that you felt your ears had been stuck or you had lost your hearing altogether. There was so much of silence, you couldn't hear anything. It appeared as if you had put something into your ears. That was the deafening silence. The children put their hands to their ears. They stood apart. The door slid back and the smell of the silent, waking world came to them. They opened the door because now the sun has come in, so they want to go out. They could get the smell of the atmosphere. The sun came out. It was the color of flaming bronze and it was very large. And the sky around it was a blazing blue tile color. And Venus is not very far from the sun. Venus is not very far from the sun. That's why it appeared to be a huge burning ball of fire. On Earth, we won't see the burning ball because we are far away from the sun. Okay? And the jungle burned with sunlight as the children, released from their spell, rushed out, yelling into the springtime. Released from their spell means they were all silent, they were all locked up, they were all dull, they were all depressed. Suddenly that spell was broken and they just ran out because they were so happy with the brightness. The sun brought a lot of vigor in their life. Now don't go too far, called the teacher after them. You've only got 2 hours, you know. You wouldn't want to get caught out, meaning once the sun disappears, it becomes so dark, the children won't have time, will not be able to see their way back. So don't go too far away. Okay? But they were running and turning their faces up to the sky and feeling the sun on their cheeks like a warm iron. They were taking off their jackets and letting the sun burn their arms. Oh, it's better than the sun lamps, isn't it? Much, much better. Sun lamps, what are the sun lamps? Yeah, these are already lamps. They look like sun, burning light. Okay? They stopped running and stood in the great jungle that covered Venus, that grew and never stopped growing. So the trees are continuously growing there. It's like a jungle because it's continuously raining. Stimulously, even as you watched it, it was stimulously means continuously. Tumult means in a big, huge clump. The trees are growing wild, wild. Even as you watched it, it was a nest of octopi. Octopi means octopus. Plural of octopus is octopi. What is an octopus? Octopus is octa. Octa meaning 8. Octopus is an animal with 8 arms, and it will hug you. Sometimes the trees have those arms. If you went closer to them, you will get enveloped with them. So trees of octopi, clustering up great arms of flesh like weed, wavering, flowering in this brief spring. Even the trees were happy to see the sun. It was the color of rubber and ash, this jungle from the many years without sun. It was the color of stones and white cheeses and ink, and it was the color of the moon. Moon has got a very pale color, means all the trees were pale in color. There was no rich color in the plants. Now, have you seen, I don't know, how many of you have got gardens in your houses, windowsills? Okay. When you see, you notice, if there is plenty of sun, it will start flowering. If there is no sun, you will not get a single flower on your pot. Okay, remember that. So the more the sun, the more is the response of the plant towards the sun. If there is no sun, you will get no flower. And the leaves will all be bent, drooping, and very pale. Okay, now here also, human beings also will become like that. The children lay out, laughing. The children were all lying on the ground. They were lying, laughing on the jungle mattress. And they heard it sigh and squeak under them, resilient and alive. Squeaking means when they were walking, the grass was crunching. अरे ब्रिजे वो कोई आदमी बात करता है कौन है जियो काम कर रहे हैं अरे उसको बोलो इधर क्लास चल रहा है वो तो जियो तो बंद करो आवाज बहुत हो रहा है कहाँ है वो यहाँ है मैं उसको डांटू क्या अरे हाँ इतना आवाज करता है
अरे बोला तूने आवाज मत करो ना
अरे अब जोर से बात करता है इधर क्लास चल रहा है प्लीज
मालूम नहीं क्या मैं बता रहा हूँ किसी को बोल मार
Why was they heard the jungle mattress? Jungle mattress means the jungle grass. It was squeaking because it was fresh. And when you walk on fresh grass, it does make a crunching sound. Huh? So that is the squeaking. Under them, resilient. Resilient means strong. Resilient means being strong and alive. They ran among the trees. Who was under them? Resilient and alive means who were there? The children were full of life, full of strength. And they ran among the trees, they slipped, they fell, they pushed one another, they played hide and seek and tag, but most of all, they squinted at the sun until the tears ran down their faces. Squinting means looking like this with small little eyes because they couldn't directly see the strong sun. They put their hands up to that yellowness and that amazing blueness, and they breathed of the fresh air and listened to the silence that suspended them in a blessed sea of no sound and no motion. They looked at everything and savored everything. Savored means they took in. They enjoyed. They digested everything. Then wildly like animals, they escaped from their caves. They ran and ran in shouting circles. They ran for an hour. They did not stop running. They were so happy, so full of energy. And then in the midst of their running, one of the girls wailed. Wail means cried. Everybody stopped. The girl standing in the open held out her hand. Oh, look, look, she said, trembling. They came slowly to look at her open palm. In the center of it, cup a huge, was a single raindrop. That means the sun is setting. The rain has started. She had a huge drop in her palm of her hand. Cupped means like this. This is called cupping. Look at me, that ball. This is called cupping. So here they found one huge drop. Huge drop means there will be sun is setting. She began to cry looking at it. They glanced quietly at the sun. Oh, oh. A few cold drops fell on their noses and their cheeks and their mouths. The sun faded behind a stir of mist. It was becoming cold, so that sun had disappeared. A wind blew cold around them. They turned and started to walk back toward the underground house, their hands at their sides, their smile vanishing away. A boom of thunder startled them, and like leaves before a new hurricane, they tumbled upon each other and they ran, coming to the safety of their house. Lightning struck 10 miles away, 5 miles away, a mile and a half away. The sky darkened into midnight in one flash. Very sad. They stood in the doorway of the underground for a moment until it was raining hard. Raining hard means raining heavily. Then they closed the door and they heard the gigantic sound of the rain falling in tons and avalanches every day and forever. Avalanches were huge block of ice falling down. So huge quantity of water falling. Will it be 7 years more? Yes, 7. Then one of them gave a little cry. Margot, what? She's still in the closet where we locked her. Now they realize this is where their human feelings come into their sense. They get back to their senses. Margot, they stood as if someone had driven them like so many stakes into the floor. They stood so still as if somebody had put stakes. Stakes are long, pointed pieces of wood poked into you and you need to stand still. Okay? So they stood still as if stakes were put into their body and they stood still. They were all shocked at their behavior. They glanced, they looked at each other, and then they looked away. Why did they look at each other? Trying to find out what will we do. And then they looked away because they were ashamed of what they had done. They glanced out of the world that was raining now and raining steadily. They could not meet each other's glances. Guilt crept into their conscience. Their faces were sullen and pale. They looked at their hands, they looked at their feet. Their faces were down. Margot, one of the girls said. Well, no one moved. Go on, whispered the girl. Go on and whispered. Go on, open the door. Go on, open the door. They walked slowly down the hall in the sound of cold rain. They turned through the doorway to the room in the sound of the storm and thunder. Lightning on their faces, blew and trembled. Terrible. They walked over to the closet door slowly and stood by it. Behind the closed door, there was only silence. They unlocked the door even more slowly and let Margot out. This is such a simple story for 10th standard children. It is graceful. But what is the underlying message that you're getting from here? That the little children can be so nasty at times. They can be nasty. Okay, we know that nastiness and the cruelty come from adults. But children, when they are nasty because they don't have the capacity to think and to imagine the wrong that they are doing. But then they understood and they realized that what they had done was wrong. They were ashamed of themselves. And that is why very quietly they opened the door for her, feeling sorry for her because she lost the sight of the sun. Okay? Did you enjoy the lesson? Yes. Good. Even if I didn't teach you, you'll say, I enjoyed. No problem. Now, open up your volumes and work out the exercises there. We take a break, no? It's supposed to be 10 minutes for the break. No. What time the break starts? 6:30 to 7:15. No, 7:15. Then 7:30 to 8:30. There are 15 minutes break in between. 5 minutes only. So 5 minutes. I'll come back after 5 minutes. I'll come back after 5 minutes. What you are doing? What you are doing? I'll come back after 5 minutes. 1 hour class. Okay, finished up now? Have you got, are you all doing your work? Yeah? What you doing? Where's your, what is that? What is distracting you there? What have you got there? No, no break is fine. Okay, break is something there. Sit up straight. Sit up straight. So you're already wearing spectacles. You're using a pen. Pencil you must use. Book for you to pencil. You don't have a pencil. Anybody's got a pencil to lend in? All of you are writing with pen. All of you are writing with pen. You're not writing only.
I was reading this.
But where's your pencil? Use a pencil. Where's your pencil? You are using a pencil. That's called testicular pencil. Can you lend him a pencil? Please see putting a pencil with you. If you have any difficulty in answering the questions, ask me. I will explain to you. Shall I discuss the answers with you or we all know? You have an older brother called Yash. What is his name? You have an older brother called Yash. You had a brother who was in UT classes many years ago. In UT classes, what is the name? Did I teach her? Have I taught her? How many years ago was she in UT classes? 6. And then I have some brother. What is she doing now? Where is she? You have a photo with you? This is a photo with you? Let me see. I don't know who will do this. No, I think you know. Now they've grown up, they look so different. She's colored her hair and all that. They look good. This is wonderful. What do you want to do? What business? What is that doing? What is what is doing? So you stay in the crescent, Jagat crescent you stay. In the, you stay in Jagat. Grain merchant in that building you stay. You stay in Bardhan, you stay in Bardhan. Holiday is a science fiction story. Comment. So what will you say? How will you comment on this? It's a science yet a fictional story. It's a science fiction story. How do you comment on that? Tell me what are the points you're going to say to make to satisfy that answer to that question. Pardon me? See, they're all scientists, they're all rocket parents, okay? So they all have gone to Venus or to stay on Venus for a project, okay? Then again, the science part of it is the same problem that Venus is having, that you have only 1 hour, you see the sun only after once in 7 years, correct? These children, of course, they were there for 7. The last time that they saw the sun was when they were 2 years, so they don't have any memory. Okay, and their pale faces, they describe their faces, describe the atmosphere outside, describe the forest and all the areas and grove and the plantation outside, correct? Then that is why is it a fictional story?
Because so that people have started living on Venus.
That people are starting living on Venus. Okay, there are no people living on Venus. Please, there are no people living on Venus. Okay, and it is only a story of entertainment. There are no people living on Venus. Venus is not an inhabited planet. Point one. So, and all the description, etc., and the behavioral pattern is all fiction. It's all fiction. That fictional part of it is only for entertainment. Point one, and to bring up 2 points. How naughty the children were, their behavioral pattern, and then how they became humane again, and they realized and felt sorry for their inhuman behavior. That is the purpose behind the story. All the poems have been done. Icse, please let me check up with what you have, what is to be done. Please tell me what is to be done here with this class.
Poems.
One moment. Yes. From the very beginning, tell me. This is 9th ICSC. This is 10th ICSC. Okay. Now wait, okay, fine. So here I've got capitals have been done. Painting has been done, 9 gold medals I have done, all of a summary I have done today. How many poems are left to be done for the 10th pair portion?
Okay.
All the poems have been done. Pakka? What about the lessons? How many lessons are left?
My greatest
My
greatest class.
okay, my greatest Olympic prize. That is it. What else?
Nothing.
That's all. And then what about merchant of Venice? Act 4 and Act 5 has to be done. Okay. All right. So the basic thing.
Can you give us a summary of Act 3?
Can I give you the summary of Act
3. We have it in our exam.
Pardon me?
We have it in our exam.
So when should I give it to you then? I don't have my book with me. How am I going to check up with that?
I have MOB.
Then essay writing, letter writing, modals, non-finite, you have all got this grammar, no? That has not been done, no? Grammar is done.
Starting the
Notices.
Okay, give me the pen. Let me see what you have. Give me the pen. Pencil. What is done? Essay is done? No.
Essays